On October 7, 2025, the FAA dropped a big one, Airworthiness Directive 2025-21-02. This is a critical update for the entire Boeing 777 fleet. In this breakdown, we're going to give you everything you need to know about its key requirements for safety and compliance.
Okay, so here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll get an overview of what's new. Then, we'll dig into the unsafe condition itself, the why behind all this. We'll see exactly which aircraft are on the hook, lay out the technical actions you need to take, look at the impact on operations and your bottom line, and then wrap it up with a final call to action.
All right, first things first, it's really important to get this. AD 2025-2720 isn't just some minor tweak. Nope, it completely supersedes or replaces a previous directive from 2022, and it brings in some major new requirements.
So what's the bottom line here? Well, the old temporary fix, disconnecting some connectors, that's still in place. But now the scope is much wider. And more importantly, this new AD pushes us toward a permanent fix. We're talking mandatory inspections, component replacements, and an outright ban on installing these affected parts ever again.
So what is the fundamental safety issue that's driving all this? Let's get right to the heart of the risk.
And the FAA isn't mincing words. They've identified a serious unsafe condition. If it's not corrected, the directive is crystal clear. It could lead to a loss of control of the airplane. This is the absolute core of why this AD is so critical.
The whole problem starts with a tiny component called the Gust Suppression Sensor, or GSS Transorb module. The simplest way to think about these things? They're basically surge protectors for the plane's flight control system, shielding all those critical electronics from something like a lightning strike.
And here's how it all goes wrong. It all starts with a little bit of corrosion on the module's threads. That corrosion creates high electrical resistance, which basically knocks out its protective function. This leaves the actuator control electronics, the ACEs, totally exposed to voltage spikes, which could trick them into sending bogus signals to the flaps, ailerons, and rudder.
Now, for the million-dollar question every single operator is asking, does this airworthiness directive actually apply to my fleet?
And the answer is, well, it's a big yes. The directive is comprehensive. It covers the entire Boeing 777 family. We're talking the 200, the 200LR, the 300, the 300ER, and the 777 freighter. No exceptions, no serial number ranges to hide in. It's everybody.
You might be wondering why it's so broad. Well, what's really interesting here is the FAA's reasoning. Even if your plane rolled off the line with perfectly good parts, these little Transorb modules are roadable. That means a faulty, corroded part could easily get swapped onto any plane during routine maintenance, spreading this risk across the entire global fleet. It's a classic case of one bad apple.
Okay, this brings us to the real nitty-gritty for all you CAMO and maintenance pros out there. What are the specific actions you've got to take to be compliant?
The compliance process really follows 4 clear steps. First, you keep the old connector disconnects and add some new ones. Then, you've got to do a fleet-wide inspection to hunt down any of these affected modules. Step 3 is the permanent fix. Either replace or test those modules. And finally, the preventative step. Make sure no one ever installs these problematic parts again.
And these are the culprits, right here. These 3 part numbers, CLPT-12SP-06, 07, and 67, are now officially banned from being installed on any 777. If you find one during your inspection, it has to be dealt with exactly as laid out in the new Boeing Bulletin.
Okay, let's talk deadlines, because this is where you really need to pay attention. The new AD officially goes into effect on January 2nd, 2026. After that, the clock starts ticking. You've got 3 months to get the new connector disconnects done. And then you have a 24-month window, all the way until January 2nd, 2028, to get that massive fleet-wide inspection completed.
So now let's shift gears. We're moving from the hangar floor up to the boardroom. Beyond all the technical work, what does this ASD mean for operations and the bottom line?
Just to give you a sense of the scale here, let's just look at the United States. This AD directly hits 312 aircraft on the U.S. registry alone.
Now let's talk money. The FAA crunched the numbers, and they estimate that just the new inspection and replacement work could cost the U.S. fleet over $1.2 million. Now, it is worth pointing out, the FAA does suggest some of these costs might be covered under warranty, which could definitely soften the blow for some operators.
And when you break it down on a per-plane basis, you can see how it plays out. The labor cost is pretty consistent, about $255.
The real wild card here is the cost of parts, which could be nearly $3,700 if you actually need to do a replacement.
All right, let's bring it all home. We're going to summarize the essential next steps to make sure you're keeping your fleet safe and staying on the right side of the regulations.
First off, meeting all those deadlines is non-negotiable. This is going to take some serious coordination between your airworthiness, planning, maintenance, and even your commercial teams to manage aircraft downtime and costs effectively. And of course, for the full official instructions, the AD itself and the Boeing Bulletin are your sources of truth.
And that really leaves us with one final critical question for every single Boeing 777 operator out there. With the clock already ticking, is your compliance plan ready to go?